The last few lectures have focused on how to configure software, but now we're getting to the fun part, which is actually playing music. So in this lecture, I'm going to show you how you can use iMIDIPatchBay to actually configure a song and start using it to build up your set and play on stage. The first thing you're going to want to do is grab your iPad and load up iMIDIPatchBay. You can easily create a new song by tapping on the hamburger icon and in the upper right tapping Create Song. The red blinking light is telling you that we're receiving MIDI right now. Now what we want to do is we want to send that MIDI back to Ableton to play an instrument, let's say. I'm going to enable Xturn 1. This is the second of the 5 vertical panels that you see. Xturn 1 basically is going to allow me to channel MIDI to a specific output. Okay, so I'm going to turn this channel on. And then in the upper part of this panel, right under where it says Xturn 1, there's a 5-pin sort of icon right there. You want to tap that button. And I'm going to say that I want this to go out to the MIDI LE, well actually I'm going to say I want to go out to MIDI bridge on channel 1. Okay? Now MIDI bridge out on channel 1, the fact that the channel, this Xturn 1 has been enabled, the on button is highlighted in red. And we have low, up, and high, those 3 red buttons at the bottom, those are all illuminated. Those are actually for setting up split points, and we're going to talk about that later, but for right now, I'm not using any split points. I'm just trying to demonstrate how we can get MIDI to go from one place to another. So now I want to go back into MIDI bridge. I see now that on the left-hand side, MIDI bridge is flashing. That is because iMIDIPatchBay is forwarding its MIDI messages on Xturn 1 to MIDI bridge channel 1. What I want to do is tap on MIDI bridge and then tap on MIDI LE USB destination to make a connection between those two. Now what I'll see is that back in Ableton Live, I'm receiving data on channel 1 and it's coming through the MIDI LE USB source. Now essentially what's happening is my second channel here in Ableton is creating some MIDI signal. It's sending it through the MIDIMitter desktop or laptop software over the USB Lightning cable into the MIDIMitter app. The MIDIMitter app is then forwarding that to MIDI bridge, and MIDI bridge is functioning as the source for iMIDIPatchBay. Then iMIDIPatchBay is saying, let's send that MIDI out Xturn 1. We can see in our settings it's going out back to MIDI bridge, but this time on channel 1. And then we have MIDI bridge sending data back to the MIDI LE USB destination in one big loop. And then back in Ableton, we can see that our From iPad channel is receiving that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a simple instrument on this channel. And we can hear that the signal now is going all the way around. So let's just stop that. And now the MIDI stops. Start it up again. So it's really essential that you understand exactly how MIDI is being routed in your system. So you want to understand everything we've talked about in this lecture. I think the best way to learn that for yourself, besides watching this lecture, is to actually try to recreate the kind of signal path that we just created in this lesson. Right? So create your own source channel in Ableton, send the MIDI on a round trip through your iPad, make sure everything's configured correctly and that you understand how it's done, because after all, when you're live on stage, if there's a challenge or a problem comes up, you're going to have nobody to rely on but yourself. You're really going to want to know exactly how MIDI is being routed around your system. Then in the next lecture, we're going to really dive deep into using MIDI CC messages from iMIDIPatchBay to control your instruments. And that's where things start to get much more in the realm of actually playing music, because we're going to start getting into performance tweaks and see how the foundation for those possibilities is really set up. So I'll see you in the next lecture.